moving straight into the Planeteers era of Space Corp, there's a couple of things you need to do before you can begin changing boards and various other things that you need to do with setup for the new era. The first one is to take the highest value production of the competition and add on its production value to the profit margin, which means the competition in this case will gain an extra 1 trillion in profit due to the P1 profit value. The base is then put back into the cup and the marker is removed from the game. We do a similar thing with our bases, and in this case we do get to choose, and in this case I've chosen the refinery, and that will give us a P2 value due to the combination of the base P1 value for production and the +1 that the refinery provides. And this goes in our legacy production box on the bottom of our player board, and that acts as a pre-built base. Everything else changes. The board itself is flipped. It's a brand new board, and the original board actually becomes a new display. So the board from the Mariners era, it flips over, and we have what's called the sideboard. It's an adaptation display plus some instructions for the Starfarers era, which is the third era. And that board is going to be home to these adaptation cards. And when you fulfill these adaptations, you gain these adaptations by moving either your genetics cube, one full rotation of the wheel, or the technology cube, one full revolution of the wheel, and you gain one of these. For the Planeteers era, the selection is limited to those with a picture of Saturn, and others will appear during the next era, the Starfarers era. And you place those on the board, and both you and the competition will get to have a collection of those by the end. And some of these new contracts, the central column, are relating to those progress cards as they're known. And replacing any component with a moon symbol on, this symbol here, with any component with Saturn on. So take away everything with a moon, replace it with something with a Saturn symbol, and that includes the era deck. The cards that we played with are completely removed, apart from those in your player board at the end of the Mariners era, and they're replaced with the Planeteers deck, which is actually the deck we used during the Mariners era as the competition deck, but that is now our player deck, from which we take 2 cards and place them in front of us, and these are our new starting hand. The competition deck this era is going to be the Starfarers deck, much bigger than the previous deck. The board has obviously changed, the tiles have changed, and there are also some changes to the rules. Now, the rules for Planeteers are to do with distance primarily and radiation. When we look at the board, we have these 2 arrows, one here and one here, and everything outside of the inner solar system, so outside of the semicircle here, or the quarter circle, has a radiation effect. If you do not have what's known as a shielded action, let's see if I can find some in here. Some of these cards will say shielded. I should have probably, there we go, shielded. So these are shielded. If you do not have a shielded action or a shielded card as part of your action, you then have to pay a penalty, and that penalty is a reduction in your total profit by 2 trillion to replicate the damage done to your equipment and your staff. And so long as one part of your move has that shielded effect, you're okay. Or if you start from a shield factory, you're okay. But if you don't have either of those in play, you do have that radiation penalty. There's also much greater distances involved. So you still have these counters where you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. However, if you're looking, as you get into the further reaches of the solar system, out by Saturn and Uranus and Neptune, you have to add on an extra number that reflects the distance in between the orbital positions of the planets. So to go through these sectors or these regions, you just pay the cost. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and so on. However, to go from perhaps Iapetus to Titiana, you would need to not only pay the cost of the region, but also what's known as a transit cost, which to go from Saturn to the moon of Uranus is +6 on top of this. And this reflects the vast distances involved and the additional movement costs you're going to suffer. We do also have far greater numbers involved. So whereas before we had build numbers, I think the highest was around about 5 or 6. Now we have build 10, build 12, build 7. And so in order to provide you with the ability to cover those costs, you can actually spend up to 3 trillion of your profit to make up a shortfall, but a maximum of 3 trillion. The same principles apply with the Oort cloud, I think it's pronounced, as with the asteroid belt in the earlier era, in which case you get a first beyond marker. And the first beyond marker, whoever owns it gets to set up in a more advantageous position. And for the Planeteers era, that advantageous position is to place your teams and a discovery tile here. Had the competition got this token, they would have had 3 turns before I would have had a turn. I think that's more or less everything. The only other thing is when you do claim a contract in the Planeteers era, if the contract has not been fulfilled in the previous era, you get both the Planeteers contract value plus the previously unclaimed Mariner's contract value. I think that's everything. I'll go and finish the setup, and we'll start. Starting the Planeteers Era as before with the competition action, and the AI for the Planeteers works more or less exactly the same as it does for the Mariners Era, with a few changes in terms of the bases and so on, which we'll get to should we come across those particular bases. But the first thing we do is we place a team in Ganymede. Ganymede is already sending our competition outside the inner solar system and on towards Jupiter. End of the competition action. We now can play ourselves. So because of our advantageous setup, we can go straight into building a base. We don't need to worry about radiation shielding because we are still in the asteroid belt here. So the first thing I'll do is I will play build 3 and build on Ceres. Ceres does have a production value, and as before we can run board, but as before we can choose a couple of different places depending on what's available on the tile, and there are a number of slightly different conditions because we're in the new era, but broadly speaking it's very similar. And so what we'll do again is we basically have a choice of an exploiter, which allows us to gain an additional benefit, but we can never use the production value again this era, or actually the rest of the game. We can place industrial, which adds a production boost to other places in the region, and currently there's only the one planet in the region, or the one build point in the region. And this is much more useful when you come out to places like Jupiter or Saturn. So we'll go to the tile we used previously, which was the refinery, which gives us that +1 value to the production. And that is a great start for us, because we now, if you combine our production value on the board, production value on the player aid, we have production 4, which is great. Okay, We can't do any transports currently. There's no contracts or anything like that to place, so we discard and draw a new card because we only have the one in hand. And here we have the first of our shielded actions. Very useful. Place these in the infrastructure, and it's very, very helpful. So one of our next key actions at some point in the next couple of turns is to place a card with a shielded action into our infrastructure. Competition's turn. They remove offers 2 and 3 and have the Planeteers Era effect. So this has changed. We still take away offers 2 and 3. That's exactly the same as before. However, the Era effect now shows genetics and revelation. And these are to do with those cubes on our player board. Genetics will give you a genetics adaptation card. Revelation will give you a technology breakthrough card. We removed only move and explore, so these aren't applicable here, but if they were, there would have been a -1 for genetics, +1 for revelation. So that has changed, and there's no third element there. The reason it's blank is because there are a few variations in the game where you can place alternatives to this to add more variety once you get used to the base game. But this is just the base game we're playing at the moment. So all we do is reveal the next cards for the offers. Again, keeping an eye out for those edge cards. So let's do what I said before. Let's place this card into our infrastructure. Now, which one to replace? We do need those moves. Moves are not shielded currently, which is going to present issues moving out into the solar system. However, we wouldn't lose anything really by placing a build in above that on that build here, apart from the explore. Explores don't necessarily need to be shielded, so we'll do that. We'll replace. Now, these old cards, when you take them out of the display, and I didn't actually have this crop up in the previous era, but if you have the same symbol as the current era, you simply place it back into your hand. If you have a previous era, you remove them from the game because they're no longer relevant. Nothing else to do except draw that extra card for having less than 4, and we have a move 4, which is good. Okay, we're still missing that shielded one though. Competition. Offers 3 and 2, sorry, 1 and 2, and the Planeteers again. As before, there's no benefit because the actions do not match competition action key, so we simply replace. One thing I have noticed about the solo game versus the multiplayer game is that the offer display gets refreshed far more quickly in the solo game than it does in the multiplayer game. There's a definite tendency, at least in the games that I've played, for players to dig through that big deck of action cards for the better cards and leave the slightly less effective starting cards on the display. In the solo game, that solo display, the display is just refreshed regularly by the competition. Okay, speaking of which, I think it's my turn again. And I'll do the upgrade. No, I won't do the upgrade because I could use the move. I could move out into the asteroid field and start building. Some of our contracts relate to the number of bases in certain regions, and the one I'm thinking of at the moment, given our start position, is to have 4 asteroid bases, and there's no need for radiation shielding in the asteroid belt, so let's use that 4. We'll take off, which is 1, move across, which is 1, move across again to Interamina, and then land for the 4, and we are now moving on into the solar system. Nothing else to do, so let's draw that card. This time we have, a special, okay, cool. These never came up in the Mariners Era, and these allow you to play a special action as a one-off to your from your hand and just do a one-off action. That's actually pretty powerful, relocating one of your team to any site. That is not bad, but the inner asteroid field in a solar system, is actually only that space down there at the bottom of the screen, not anywhere else. So probably better to use that for a build currently, unless things change. Competition is taking 2 discoveries and a contract 6. Contract 6 is pretty straightforward, same as before, just pop a cube showing it is interested in that action. With the 2 discoveries, quite simply you find the two highest ID numbers and place a exploration tile, discovery tile, and a team. Okay, so the highest ID numbers are probably 20 and 21. 20 for Callisto by Jupiter and 21 for Titan out by Saturn, I think. Yeah, so that's Titan is an E3. Wow, which gives a very cool benefit. So that is a 2 trillion advanced genetics cube, a couple of different natural resources. No, I wish we had pulled that one. Okay, 2 trillion. And the other was Callisto. So same thing, we take this time again another E3 tile, and we have abundant ores and water, 1 trillion, production value of 2, wow, and a -2 on the base build. That again, that would have been awesome. But that is now the competitions are released at the moment. So 1 trillion in addition. Okay, now if we want to move and build here, we do need to, which we can, but this is where we would have to pay. So if I moved one of my teams from here to here and built here, I would have to then pay a cost to the competition. I believe top of my head it's 2 trillion, but we'll see if we need to do that. My turn. I think given my hand at the moment, which is currently mostly focused on exploring and building, it would make sense to use the explore to grab an discovery tile over on Interamina just there. So that's what we'll do, and that's only an E1. But we have a special discovery which tells us to discard the tile and draw a second from the E2 pile. Oh no, pirates. This is not cool. So we have pirates, and pirates, we lose 1 trillion, essentially. And you can only build a secure base, and that will cost you an extra 2 trillion. That is not helpful at all for us. So we lose 1 trillion, and we have an extra build cost on that base, on that location. Wow, that's terrible. Okay. The only thing left to do is take a card, because our hand limit is below. Genetics. This will let us move our genetics cube towards those adaptation cards. Worth keeping hold of that one for now. Competition offers 1/4 and the Planeteers. So as before, there's no effect because we've taken away a build and we've taken away a move. So we just simply replace with an eye on those edge cards. No. Oh, yep. No, there's no edge cards currently. Okay, so it would be very useful at this point to do some research, I think. because we can grab that move 6, which is fantastic. You can upgrade it into the infra. Because it's a non-start infra card, we can it will contribute towards our first contract, or one of our first contracts, and it's always good to be able to advance genetics. So let us do that. We'll research for the 2 cards. And that's it, I think, apart from replenishing the offer, because we now have 5 cards in hand, so we can't. That would be excellent to get. We can't then. We can't take a card now as part of the round order because we have 5 cards in hand. We still can't. We don't have a spaceport yet, so we still can't have a team transport. Okay, so let's go with the competition. 3, 4, and Planeteers. Ripping through these decks at the moment, but there is a genetics cube, genetics turn marker. The genetics penalty, as it is, for the competition is -1 trillion. But it does remove those cards. Places with 2 more. Oh, Revelation cards are also good. That is how you move that black cube around the board, around the wheel on your progress board, and get those technology cards. And the technology cards are awesome. They really do help long term. So actually, let's do that. Let's research. I still have a research value of 2, and we can grab both of those, I think, because production we can produce on both our sites, which would be helpful, or we could grab the revelations. Nothing else to do apart from replenish. Moving on into the competition again. Offers 1, 2, 4, and the Planeteers era again. So wow, these are all coming through today. So 1, 2, and 4. There is no revelation or genetics on that display currently in those slots, so we simply remove. Okay. Now I would absolutely love to grab hold of those 2 cards there, or even, if I could, those 3. Sadly, I do already have 7 cards in hand. I believe that is the limit for research. No, so I could grab them. I could. Okay, so what I'll do then is I will play. I do have 7, so I'm on the absolute limit, but those cards are great, so I will grab 4 cards with my research. I've got research 2, that's 4. Now I will take the top 3 cards from the display plus 1 from the top of the deck. And that was another production action, which is excellent. Okay, now we're moving. We've got a decent sized hand now, and we should be able to absolutely start making some moves. Okay, competition first though. Oh no, my mistake. Let's refresh the deck. Refresh the offers. Competition then. Enceladus, I think. I'm not sure. Sorry. And Enceladus is here, out by Saturn. Okay, let's move our genetics. Okay, so for my action this turn, I am going to display all three for genetics. And what that means is I move my cube 3 spaces. I've done a full rotation. And because I've done a full rotation, I now get to pick one of the cards that's over off screen on the display. A bit hard to see because of the way it's set up, but they're over there on the display. And the cards I can choose from for genetics are these 4. I have radiation resistant, which is a second card. You can only get that if you've got another adaptation card first, but that is an awesome card once you've got it. Move 5 automatically gives you move 5 for a low body mass. Buildings become more efficient, or we draw 2 discoveries and choose 1. That's also helpful. You'll notice as well that these cards, because these are the first ones of each type, you do get a benefit in terms of profit as well. I think what I'll do is I will do the move 5, which will give us that boost and let us get rid of some of these green move cards that's currently cleaning up our infrastructure. Cool, we now have low body mass. We're starting to adapt to life in the stars. Okay, I think I gave myself the trillion. Nothing else to do currently. So, competition. Interamina. Okay, there. We already have a team there. We don't have a base, so the action will still go ahead. Interamina's off in the corner. I've just realised you probably can't see. Interamina's that one with the pirates on. And quite. Yeah, it's taking our base, so it is stealing our stuff. And the way it works is exactly the same. We grab a base from the display. We've got an attraction. The competition doesn't really follow the same rules. I think we saw it in the previous era. There's no real restriction. Our cube ends up going back to the inner solar system. So while there's no real restrictions on build for it, it does have this effect table we have to check, and then if it's not on the correct place, we cannot build. So the attraction has to be built on a artifact outpost, ruins, or a natural wonder. That is not applicable here, so the competition does not get a benefit. But it has stolen our stuff. And because it's stolen our stuff, we have to give ourselves basically a fee for using it. 2 trillion if they place a base where we've claimed a discovery tile, so we get a benefit, which is nice. I mean, now 19 trillion to their 21 trillion, so that's actually not too bad and saves us the hassle of trying to move off or build on that site. Okay, let's produce 2. We have a production value 2 and a production value 2, so that's going to be 4 trillion for ourselves, which is the first time I think we have been ahead of the competition in terms of profit, which is a nice feeling. Nothing else. We still haven't got a spaceport, have far more than 4 cards in hand, so competition is going to move on to Ariel. Ariel is up by Uranus. One of the many things I've learned about space by playing this game is that the moons of Uranus seem to be named after Shakespearean characters. Didn't know that prior to playing this game. Okay, my turn again. Let's upgrade. We'll upgrade his infra. That card is a Mariner's card, so it's discarded. Back into the Mariner's deck. Competition. Okay. So here we have a new action for the hour. Basically what that means, the BEF offers 1-2 and the symbols, what that means is it takes breakthrough EF, and breakthrough EF is energy fields. So it claims 2 trillion, keeps that card, and progress cards do apply to contracts, and in the Planeteers era, the first person with 2 contracts, 2 progress cards claims a contract. The offers 1-2 part means we remove offers 1 and 2, and it claims a benefit for the edge card or the special action cards. So there's 1 edge card, and we will give it 1 trillion for that. Our financial advantage has rapidly dwindled, and we'll remove those 2. An edge. Okay, so as what happened in the last era, the competition gets to play this edge card against us, and for a hack. Oh wow, okay, so for a hack we discard all research cards from the offer and from hand. Okay, so we don't have any research cards in hand. And there's none on the offers, so that's lucky escape really, that one. But we draw again. If it's another edge, we do have to play that edge, and it is another edge, this time a sabotage. And the sabotage is choose one of my teams without a base and relocate it to a site with a base. Not applicable, thankfully, because both our teams are at a base, one being the starting position, admittedly, and we draw another card for that slot. Okay, and this time it's a straightforward card, so we can now move on to our turn. And I think what we'll do is we will play an upgrade card again. We'll upgrade the... Oh, is that the right upgrade card? Maybe not. Let's upgrade this one, because we want that shielded build in case. And this one, Mariners Era, move and explore, we'll discard into the Mariners deck from previous era. We're now finally back down to 4 cards, so we take 1 off the deck, which again gives us an edge. Not a bad edge, but there is that difference for the solo game, and the intercept will... Oh, it will allow us to take 2 turns. Okay, might be worth keeping that handy. Competition. Dion. Dion is Saturn way. It's our turn. Okay, we're going to need to start moving out into the wider reaches of the solar system, I think, to start getting some discoveries. So we're going to use our shielded factory, and our shield factory allows any move that starts from it to be protected against radiation. I'm making sure that that's absolutely correct. Yeah, so I can move into the outer reaches of the solar system without worrying about the radiation cost, because I started at the shield factory, which is the base at the inner solar system. And the move I'm going to take is a move 10 using my infra, and I'm going to move from inner solar system to inner solar system to, let's go to Saturn, get some presents out in Saturn, and we'll go to Rhea. No need to draw any cards or anything like that. So the competition is taking an adaptation this time. So adaptation for energy efficiency, offers 2-4 and a production symbol. Okay, so the energy efficiency was the card I showed you previously for the build. So he has now claimed the 1 trillion benefit for that, plus completed the contract for 2 progress cards, which is that very top contract, awarding another 3 trillion. Okay, we are starting to drift behind slightly, but we still have to finish the action, which was to remove offers 2 and 4 and providing a profit for value for those with a production, but there wasn't any, so that's fine. So just replace. Okay, cool, no problem. And we will explore using explore 2 to explore on Rhea, and that does not require any kind of shielding the explore action, so we'll simply take a discovery tile, which gives us 1 trillion for finding water out on Rhea, and it allows us to build a base for a build cost of -3, which is pretty good. Okay, that means we can probably build there next turn, thinking about it. But first we need to do the competition. We still have 5 cards in hand, so don't draw a new one. This time they're going to Ceres. However, Ceres is our base of belonging to us, so it will move instead to Vesta. Starting to claim our unclaimed areas out in the asteroid field. Our turn. Now, we do have a shielded build, which means we can build without penalty on Rhea, which is just here. However, its value is 1. So we're going to need to pay excess, and we will pay this one, so that we can build that base out on Rhea. Now, if a base has got water, we can either build a shield factory in order to help our moves out towards the other areas of the solar system, or we could build industry. Industry would give us a benefit in terms of our total build value. So let's build industry. There we go, an industrial base out by Saturn. Start mining those moons. We do draw a card because we have 4 in hand now. Okay, what I wouldn't give for a shielded move right about now. Okay, competition. The lowest odd numbered site. Okay, so let's find the numbers. Probably 1, which is Hygeia. Down at the in asteroid field. Going to do, because we've got the adaptation for low body mass giving us a benefit for the move, I'm going to replace the build, I think. No, that makes sense. I could claim a contract by replacing that start build, which is this one. Sorry, the Planeteers start card for a build, which I will do, and then that'll get us a contract, even though it does remove that shielded build, but it does come back into hand because it's from this era, which is good. I do have 3 non-start Planeteer cards, so we can claim that contract and the 2 trillion. Okay, meaning we are now 26 trillion versus 28 trillion, so not too far adrift now. It was looking quite worrying a moment ago. We have 5 cards, nothing else to do. Competition. offers 1-3 in production again. So there's no benefit in terms of the production because there wasn't a production action on display. Okay. That'd be worth having, that production 2 with a revelation as well. That would very much be worth having. But let's play the edge card to show you how these work in the solo game. Okay, so we ignore the text because that is for the multiplayer game. However, this particular card works very similar. It is intercept, and we play it at the start of the turn, and then we can finish this turn and take another one. So basically we get 2 turns in a row, which is good. So we've played that. That's played. I'll leave it to the side just so that I remember. Which means we have now a few things we can look at. Moving is going to come at a cost because we're not shielded from radiation out in the Saturn region. So we're going to have to, if we move, we're going to have to move the team based on Ceres, and I think that's perhaps not sure about that one at the moment. What we could do though is we could research for action number 1, produce for action number 2. So let's research and let's grab that revelation production card as our first research card, and our second research card is going to be off the top of the deck, which is explore and build again. Can't draw a card or anything like that, so that's the end of our first turn. Moving into our free turn, let's do that production. We will produce on the two bases that we have that can produce, which is here and over on our player board. And again, they're both valued at production 2, so that in total is 4 trillion. And we're now at 30 trillion. That's the end of our 2 turns. Competition. The lowest even numbered site, and that is going to be Europa. Europa has an identifier number. I should have replaced that before. Identifier number of 6. So competition goes to Europa. Let's produce again. We'll just produce on one site. Give us 2, giving us a little bit of a lead now, dare I say, some 4 trillion ahead with 32 versus 28. That is a unusual position I find myself in, I must be honest. I tend to find myself somewhat behind by the end of this era. I tend to focus more on the exploring and less on the production. Seems to be my mistake, probably. Anyways, I do draw a card this time because I have only 4 in hand. An excellent production and genetics. Great. Competition's turn. They go to Pallas. And Pallas is somewhere. Asteroid belt. I think we should perhaps move. No, let's upgrade. Let's take advantage of our ability to upgrade, and we'll grab this one. We're not losing much in terms of the move because we have that adaptation card, and the explore is going to be the same, but we do now have a base build of 6, which is going to be very important as we start to move towards the outer solar system, and particularly on into the next era. Nothing else to do apart from grab ourselves a card, which is an Explore 3 and a free exploration. Ooh, that'd be useful. Okay, we are probably around 2/3 of the way through now. I reckon this deck will run out relatively soon. we're some way off the contracts. The contracts, I don't think I mentioned before, we have 2 progress cards which have been done. 4 asteroid bases, 3 bases beyond Jupiter, 3 regions beyond Jupiter, 2 bases beyond Uranus, 3 bases in 1 region, and 3 non-start Planeteer cards in your info slot, which I've done, and then bases on 4 sites containing either water or life. Currently, the competition has 2 that qualify for that. Okay, and I have 1. Okay. I think it's the competition's turn. They're going to Titan. And Titan is already taken. So now we need to provide them with a base, I believe. Yeah, placing a base. Industrial. Now this time the industrial does require water, and there is water, so basically it gains a value. Oh gosh, it gains a team at an unoccupied site in the same region. Oh wow, okay. So basically that team moves to Lapetus. That's not a bad help, that one. And of course it has gained another base. Okay. Our turn. Let us what to do? Good question, isn't it? I have only got 5 cards. Let's research and let's just grab 2 off the top of the deck. Another production action and a move, explore, upgradable card. Think about that one. Not sure. Competition's turn. Europa. Europa is somewhere. Oh, it's getting another base, I think. Yeah, so Europa's over on the edge of Jupiter. It's an E3 discovery, which is uncool. And they have found natural wonders with abundant ores, gaining them 2 trillion. And should anyone have been able to build that, it would have been a -3, but they're getting a base because they already have a team present. And this time they get a biolab. Biolabs require life, I believe. Yeah, they require life, and we don't have any life on that tile, so there's no additional benefit other than another base for the competition. So our turn. I do want to move my wheel, but then I know I'm going to need to get a buffer on the profit side of things as well, a bigger buffer on the profit side of things. I could really do with exploring. Oh, there's so many things I could do, but we'll produce. That's another 4 trillion from both of those sites. Nothing else to do, so competition. And Sladius, which I'm sure they have a base on. They do. This time it's an E2 tile, so they're gaining 3 trillion. And that also has a production element, so let's see what we draw for their bases. Industrial, it has a production value, and I'm pretty sure that's going to give it a benefit. So industrial on a tile with a production value will gain a team in an unoccupied region, but there isn't one, therefore they get a trillion. Now, how are they doing in terms of their bases? No, they're not quite done enough to gather the contract for 3 bases in 1 region. Okay. I'm going to move my team from Ceres to Palace. That's my move. I don't need to play any cards because I have move 6 and the move 5. So that's move 11 as my baseline. I don't need to get a card, nothing else to do. Tiziana or Ariel, and Tiziana is up by Uranus. My turn again. Let's explore. We'll use our baseline explore to place an E1 tile, which is 2 trillion natural wonder on Palace. Okay, so 2. That's good. Nothing to do. Still have more than 4 cards in hand, so competition. Dion. Dion is another base, it looks like, on the edge of Saturn. So 2 trillion and a production value. And this time we have drawn refinery. And the refinery requirement for the competition is, if it has a p-value, which it does, it gains the production value in profit. So we have now almost come level in terms of profit gain, and the competition has fulfilled its second contract with 3 bases in 1 region. Now, 3 bases in 1 region is actually contract 5, and because contract 5 was unfulfilled last time, it claims that benefit plus that benefit for a total profit of 5 trillion. But that made their investors happy. Right. Next, my turn. Let's build a base. We can build a base on the natural wonder, and that is the only thing we can build though is an attraction, because nothing else basically can't go anywhere else. So people need something to look at. But so we'll build the attraction, and it will gain a production value should we have the production cards come up again later in the turn, in the round. Okay. Umbriel and Oberon. Moving out towards Uranus. We're going to have to try to avoid, even if we end up paying money, avoid the competition getting out to the Oort cloud, because the benefit in the Starfarers for the competition is just horrendous. Okay. That is our turn now. Wow, okay. Let's just research. Try and grab, we'll do research too, try and grab a couple of decent cards from that deck. Finally, we have a shielded move. Fantastic. We'll swap that out as soon as possible, and we can start really making progress without denting our profit margins. Okay, but first the competition needs to take a turn. and they're going to Pallas or Hygeia. Pallas is taken, so they're going to Hygeia. They already have a guy there, so they are taking a tile, which is going to be another 1 trillion to them, and then they are going to build a base. At this time they generate a shield factory, and the shield factory requires water. There is water, and basically because the shield factory has water, the competition gains a trillion unless I have radiation resistance as an adaptation, which I don't, and both a shielded move and a shielded build, and I've only got one of those. No, I don't even have either of those in the infra, so they're going to gain a trillion. And my turn, and I'll simply swap out the move for the shielded move. Nothing else to do. I have far more than 4 cards. In fact, I've got 6, 7 cards now. So let us take the competition's turn. Going to Io. Io is out by Jupiter. And let's get moving. Let's get moving now. We've got our shielded move of 2, a base move of 5 for the low body mass. That's 7. We can then play quite a lot of these other cards. So 7 plus 12, say 17. Where can we go for 17? That's not yet taken. Now remember what I was saying about the cost of moving between moons. So the cost of moving from Saturn's moons to Triton is 18. Currently we have 12 plus 5 plus 2, that's 19. Okay, that's fine. And that cost does include the distance, the additional distance, plus liftoff and landing and moving to Triton. Because we have that shielded move in our infra, we don't need to worry about radiation, which is great. We have discarded 2 of our cards, meaning we can't draw a card into our hand this turn, but we can at least start researching again, should we choose to. Competition going to Vesta. Vesta has been not built on yet. That's remarkable. So the competition gets a tile, which is abundant ores. Gets to build a base. And the base is a spaceport. And their benefit for a spaceport is no gravity penalty. If the competition has 2 other bases, which it does, it takes the first beyond marker. And that is not cool for us anyway. I believe the benefit was 3 turns without me taking a turn at the start of this one, had they claimed it in the Mariners Era. It's similarly problematic for us in the Starfarers Era as well. Okay, and of course they do have a base. The base is the 3rd one in the asteroid area. However, that actually means that the contract 2 is now unfulfillable because you cannot now get 4 bases in the asteroid field. So our turn, and I'll explore onto Triton. And that's an E2. Gives me a 2 trillion profit, a production value of 2, fantastic, but bases are going to cost an extra 2 to build, and it's already a build 10. But at least we get 2 trillion. I reckon we can get a build 10, no problem. Getting a shielded build 10 maybe. No, that's doable, I think. Next turn, we'll do that next turn. But first, the competition. 1, 3, 4, and Planeteers. We haven't run one of these in a while. We take 1, 3, and 4. with an adjustment for any genetics or revelation, which there are not any. We do have an edge, and the edge is poach. And the poach for the competition is choose half the cards in hand. Oh no. Wow, okay. I've got to choose and discard half my cards, rounding down. Wow. Okay, let's discard that one. And let's discard that one. Okay. Not cool. Not cool. Production. Okay, our turn. Back down to 3 cards. The 3 cards should, when added together with our 6 build on our board, we have 6 build on our player board. We have 1 shielded build, which is great, so that's a build of 7, plus the build of 5 is build 12. Gets us a base over on the moon of Neptune, on Triton. On the base we're going to choose, because we have that production value of 2, is going to be a refinery. And the refinery gives us that +1. So if we can produce off that, that's 3 trillion every time we choose to. And even if we can't build this turn, produce this turn, we can at least add it to our legacy production. And the deck is running low now. The deck is running very low for only 6 cards, 7 cards left. So a couple more turns, I reckon, and we'll be near the end of the era. Oberon and Umbriel. Oh, I should have taken a card last turn from my hand, which I neglected to do. Finally, a decent shield. Another shielded move. Okay. Oberon. Oberon is the 1 moon of Neptune, so Uranus, that has not been claimed. Okay, Argo. Yeah, let's research 2, grab that production action. And 1 off the deck, why not? It can only be good. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, that is actually really great. What I pulled was not only did I get that production, try and get that produce 1, also a shielded build again, which we probably do need moving into the Starfarers era. Get that into the Infra. Nothing else to do. We still haven't built a Space Corp, which is remarkable. I've built so little. But let's grab that card. Move 6. Not such a big thing at the moment. But let's see what the competition will replenish the offered display. Just knocked all the cards off. And let's take the competition's turn. Rhea. Rhea is already been built on, so take another turn. Okay, another adaptation and offers card. So this time they're taking low body mass, which is their 3rd progress card, after energy efficiency and the breakthrough card, which is energy fields. No benefit in terms of contracts or money, because it's the 2nd time the low body mass card has been drawn. I pulled the other one, but that's going to give them a big advantage in the Starfarers era, where the contract is 7 progress cards. But we still need to remove offers 1 and 4. Any research in there will give them a benefit, but there isn't any. And we're now down to virtually our last card. Okay, and I want to claim that gap. If the era ends, which it will, I want to claim that production. I think production is probably the most important thing at the moment, to try and clear that gap between our values. So let's produce 1. on Triton for 3 trillion. And then we claim the extra card for end of our era, last card of the era. That means the era has ended. And because the era ended, as in the previous era with the era deck running out, we take one more turn without an intervening competition turn. And I think what I'll do is I'll take the build and upgrade it into a shielded build. And that's the end of the era. We do need to again do the action where you, which I neglected to do in the last video, I did at the start of this video, but where you take the highest production value of the competition and add it to their profit margin. And it looks like the highest production value that they have currently is 2 for the abundant ores. So we'll add that on. Do that now instead of later. Okay, that is the end of the Planeteers era. Please do join me in the next video for the Starfarers era, where things do change up quite a bit in terms of how the game works. There's a few different things going on in the Starfarers era. Currently it's relatively close with just a couple of trillion between me and the competition, plus there's a bunch of unfulfilled contracts which, if we can get those done in Starfarers, may help us significantly. And our legacy production this time is going to be legacy production of 3, which is great. I'll change that now as well before I forget. Okay, see you next time.